Godzilla C PG-13. Hey everybody, Paul here. I'm here to do a review about the new Godzilla movie that's come out recently. If any of y'all have seen the 1998 Godzilla movie, I think that's when it came out. I've heard a lot of people didn't like that movie. I liked it, but I don't really put, I guess you put too much thought into movies. I like movies because, well, basically it's hard to explain, but this film, the new Godzilla movie, I think is a bit better than that one. The Godzilla in this movie, he looks a lot better than the one in the 1998 film. He looks more like the Godzilla in the Japanese movies. He's not in this movie a lot. I mean, they spend more time on the human characters than they do on Godzilla and the monsters. There are two other monsters in this movie besides Godzilla who are fighting in this film. The film starts out with these people at a mine. This guy named Dr. Sarazawa, I think I might be mispronouncing his name. He comes to a mine that has collapsed in on itself, and he and some other people go down into this mine. They had found like radiation or something. They thought they might have found uranium, so they go in. So they were there to mine it or something, and the thing collapsed in on itself. And these people go into this Dr. Sarazawa, and these people, they go into the mine to see what was down there, and they find these huge bones of this creature, one of the, I guess, a Godzilla from the past that died, and they find these what they refer to as spores. I guess they're eggs or something. One that like it's hatched out of something, like something hatched out of it, and this other one that looks like it's dormant. They say it's dormant, but it shows up again later on in the film. That's how the movie begins, and I guess they take like one of the eggs. Well, it ends up being an egg. They take it to a secret place later on that shows. It doesn't show them taking it there, but I know I'm battling here. Sorry. They take it to a place that houses other nuclear waste and things because it's radioactive, or it was absorbing radiation. They talk about it absorbing radiation later on in the movie. And well, anyway, it shows. Sorry, I'll come back to that later. It shows this guy named Brody. He's like I didn't really get a good idea what his job was. He works at a nuclear power plant in Japan, and he's American though. But he and his family are living in Japan, and sorry about that. It's his birthday because his son, when we first see his son in this film, when we're first introduced to Brody and his family, it's his birthday. His son has made this banner for him that says "Happy Birthday, Dad," and and his kid wakes up and he's dragging it out around, well, not around the house, but and he's surprised that his dad's awake and has gotten up early. So, because he wants to, I guess, to put up the banner secretly so his dad won't know. And his mom, I don't think they ever say what her name was. We just know she's Brody's wife. She and he, I guess, try to decide to figure out what they're going to do about the banner and everything. But anyway, Brody's trying to get this meeting done. He's trying to get a meeting done. Because they're at this power plant, they're detecting these seismic vibrations, or what they're calling seismic vibrations at one point. And, pardon me. I know. I'm not really good at doing these reviews, sorry. And he's really worried because they don't really know what's causing these seismic vibrations or whatever they are. And he goes to the power plant where he works at, and his wife earlier tells him all this stuff about the banner and everything that son was doing, and of course he's all, you know, like, upset that he, I guess, didn't realize that or missed it or something like that. And anyway, at the power plant, his wife works there too. She works there, and they're detecting these seismic vibrations. They don't know what's causing them or whatever. So he wants to shut the power plant down, and the other guys, I think they don't want to let him or something like that. And anyway, his wife goes down into this place in the power plant to do something. I'm not really sure what it was. And there's like, the building starts shaking and everything, and something inside the plant ruptures, and I guess a whole bunch of radiation is about to get out. And the wife, who's in this like hazmat suit and everything, is like running while there's those people trying to get out. And the husband, of course, is on a walkie-talkie trying to get her out of there. And he goes to this door, which I guess when it closes will keep the radiation from coming out of there. And it's on manual, so he can shut it down, so he can wait for his wife to get out before closing the door. But unfortunately, of course, as things work out, his wife doesn't get out, because as they're running down this hallway, this pipe or something bursts or something happens. Well, the building's shaking and all this stuff is happening, and this guy and her get knocked down, and she goes back to try and get this guy up and try to help him out. And she tells her husband that they're not going to be able to get out, and of course he's all sad and crying, and begging her to escape, to get out. And it becomes aware. He becomes aware she's not going to make it, and all of a sudden this cloud of stuff, which I guess is radiation, starts coming down the hallway towards him, and he shuts the door, and he's like turned away from the door, and he's all crying because he thinks his wife is dead. But then he hears like this pounding on the door. He turns around. There's these people. They're not screaming, but well, they're wanting out. But it's too late because the radiation is all there. And if the door were open, the whole city would be contaminated. And his wife is there, and it's a sad moment, really. His wife tells him to take care of their son and to raise him and to do, I can't remember the exact words. I'm not remembering the exact words or exactly how it happened, but I'm remembering as best as I can. And of course, this other door, the second door, it closes too, so he can't see her no more, and of course she dies. Then the film jumps to like 15 years later, and his son, who was a little kid at the time, is now an adult, and he's in the army. Because the next time we see him, he's getting off this plane at a military, I guess it's at a base or something. And we get introduced to the kid. His name is Ford, and he gets referred to as Lieutenant Brody because he's in the military. And he's a bomb disposal expert, I guess, in the military. They refer to it in some way, but basically that's what he does. He gets rid of bombs in the army, and we get introduced to his wife and to his little kid, and he's come back after like 14 months of being in I guess another country. It doesn't really say, I don't think, what country he was off in, but he was off in the military doing something, and of course we see him getting back with his wife, them spending a little time together, him playing with his son, which is cute. And he gets a phone call. His wife picks up a phone call. His father has apparently gotten arrested in Japan trying to go back into sorry, kind of skipped ahead a little bit. When his wife died, I know I keep saying a lot, sorry. When his wife died, the what was causing the whole thing to happen, caused the towers, the towers of the nuclear power plant to collapse and all this stuff. And the whole area where they once lived, where this nuclear power plant was, is now a quarantine zone. They're saying that there's radiation or something that's deadly there, so they won't allow people there. And so, excuse me. And so the father is now obsessed with trying to find out what it was that caused the incident that ended up killing his wife and destroying the plant and all that stuff, because I guess they're trying to blame it on something else rather than their. And so the father gets arrested in Japan trying to sneak back into the quarantine zone, and his son goes over to Japan to get him out of prison. And there was this kind of a scene where the son, who is now an adult, Lieutenant Brody, is sitting in a Japanese not prison, but a jail or whatever. And I guess this door opens, and I guess he thinks it's his dad coming out, but it's not his dad. It's this Japanese teenager with this, kind of like a punk-looking sort of person. And these two other, his parents show up, and they're yelling at him in Japanese. And but Brody's dad finally does come out of the jail, and he and his dad go to his dad's, I guess, apartment. I'm not really sure if it's a house or an apartment. And his apartment is plastered with all these articles and newspapers of all this stuff his dad has been researching over 15 years, trying to find out what happened in that nuclear power plant, and to find out what it was the Japanese, I guess, are covering up. And of course, we all know it's a big freaking monster. So he's looking at all these articles and stuff, and his dad asking him about his family, his kid, which is his grandson, and things. And he looks at this book, which is about echolocation, which comes into play later on in the film. And basically it shows that he's become obsessed with trying to find out what happened. And his son doesn't want to hear it no more, because I guess he's probably been hearing it for years as he was growing up, ever since it happened. And at one point he tells his wife, when he's talking to his wife about, well, before he went to Japan, about his dad would try to pull him back in, and why he doesn't want to listen to it no more, not in those exact words. And anyway, his dad convinces him to come with him to go back into the quarantine zone to try and to go to their home, because his dad wants to get these discs he had that had data on it that's important to him, important to what happened all them years ago. And they go back in, and it shows, well, not a lot about the town, but it does show the quarantine area. They go by boat into this place, and they go into the quarantine zone, and their house is just like trashed and covered over with stuff. They show these dogs running around in their place alive, which is weird, seeing how it's supposed to be radiation or something. And the dad finds his discs, of course, and he sees the banner his son had put up there. His son and his wife, I think, had put up there when he went 15 years earlier, when it was his birthday. And that was a kind of a moment where it's like it's still there after all these years. And anyway, at one point earlier, before they get into the house, I know I'm kind of rambling around here, the dad looks at this kind of a Geiger counter. It's kind of like a digital thing and it shows that there's no radiation, and he takes his mask off, and his son's like, no, like, what are you doing? Not in those exact words, but, and he realizes that there's no radiation in that place. There's no lethal radiation in that place, that they were lying, the Japanese or whoever, and so he and his son get arrested. The authorities, they find them there, which, like, Come on, you got arrested once going in that place. How do you think you're not going to get arrested again going in there a second time? I mean, he did. He went in there a second time, and they get arrested, but instead of getting taken to jail, they get taken to this place where the nuclear power plant used to be. And his son actually asked him, are they rebuilding the plant? And anyway, they found this thing there where the plant used to be. And it's the monster that... It's not Godzilla, it's a different monster. There's this sort of weird, sort of bent thing sticking up out of the ground, which I thought at the beginning was supposed to be like one of the spikes off of Godzilla's back, but that was like bent or something, and it had these glowing lights in it that was absorbing radiation. So, and at first I thought that's what it was. I thought it was Godzilla there, but it turns out to be this other monster. And these people are studying this thing. They've been studying it for years. And it's absorbing radiation and it keeps letting out these electromagnetic pulses that keep interfering with like electronics and all this stuff that they're having. And at one point, well, at first this Dr. Sarazawa, who was at that mine earlier, he's there. He's part of the team that's studying this thing underground, whatever it is. And they have Lieutenant Brody's father in this interrogation room, and they're asking him questions. And of course, he's yelling and, well, he's talking to him, and the way he's talking, he's not exactly sounding sane the way he's talking to him. And he keeps... and he says that he deserves answers or explanation or something because his wife died. I think that's what he said. And all these things. And he wants his son back because they've been separated. And anyway, Dr. Sarazawa is watching him. They're looking at all these charts and things, and they're realizing that the seismic activity or the sounds or whatever it was they were hearing when the nuclear power plant was destroyed, that's happening again. And all this stuff. You'd have to see the film, but basically, at one point, that thing is letting out electromagnetic pulses or something, and the Dr. Sarazawa tells them to kill it, and they set off this thing that hits this thing with these big electric bolts. And it looks kind of like it kills it at first. The stuff falls off of it, and these people are running around trying not to get smushed by all this stuff falling off this strange, bent-looking thing. But turns out it ain't dead. Instead, this monster comes up out of the ground. It busts up out of the ground. It's tearing things up. This poor guy in a crane gets dragged off this thing. And the son is like out inside of a truck, being held inside of a truck or something. He sees that and all these things. And he sees the monster come up. And this monster, it looks like something from outer space. I don't know if that's what it was supposed to be. In the film, they're talking about like all this nonsense about like it was supposed to be from like the past, from like when the world was more radioactive and all this stuff. The creatures... They say the creatures consume radiation. They eat radiation. It's their food. And anyway, this thing lets out an electromagnetic pulse, and all the lights go out. And the father, who's locked up in a room, he gets out because now the door opens up because the lock's no longer working. It was electronic. The lights are out. The electronics are fried. And so he gets out. And it doesn't really show him how he gets out, but, well, the door opens anyway. The son sees all this stuff happening outside, the monster coming up out of the ground. They got like this thing, I don't know what you call them. They got this thing to try and keep the monster trapped, but of course the monster breaks out. And it's got wings. This one's got wings. There end up being two of these monsters. They end up calling them Muto. something like I can't remember the exact words they use. Sort of like it's the U and the T and the O stand for underground terrestrial organism or something like that. The M might stand for massive or something like that. I'm not sure. And the one flies off, although you don't see it really fly off. The son, he puts this oxygen mask on, and you can sort of see it through his oxygen mask. And it takes off. Before it takes off, he sees his dad is on this scaffolding or whatever it is, and his dad gets hurt, and all these other people are getting hurt because this monster is just busting out. And I'm just kind of. And anyway, the father gets hurt and he dies, but before he dies, he tells his son to protect his family no matter what. The U and the T and the O stand for underground terrestrial organism or something like that. The M might stand for massive or something like that. I'm not sure. And the one flies off, although you don't see it really fly off. The son, he puts this oxygen mask on, and you can sort of see it through his oxygen mask. And it takes off. Before it takes off, he sees his dad is on this scaffolding or whatever it is, and his dad gets hurt, and all these other people are getting hurt because this monster is just busting out. And I'm just kind of. And anyway, the father gets hurt and he dies, but before he dies, he tells his son to protect his family no matter what. And the authorities there, they want the son to help them at first because they want to know what his dad knew, what his dad figured out. And they show him all this stuff at the beginning of the movie. The movie first opens up with, I know I'm going all the way back to the beginning, but in the beginning of the movie all opens up with this, with a bunch of like newspaper clippings or old video from like years ago, black and white video from the past and all this stuff. And it's talking about the explosion of the old nuclear bombs from like the 50s, like Bikini Atoll. And they're trying to make it look like that bomb explosion was an attempt to kill Godzilla, because it showed a Godzilla creature from back then, a long time ago. His spikes, the spikes on his back coming up out of the water, and his head starts to come up out of the water, and a nuclear bomb goes off, and all this stuff. So they're talking about that during this scene where they're trying to get the son to help them, and the son tells them about the echolocation thing his dad was talking about, and they figure out that this monster was sending out, I guess it was basically talking, if you want to call it that. It's sending out this noise or signal or whatever you want to call it, and something talked back to it. Something answered. And I guess they kind of at first think it might be Godzilla, but then they figure out later, no, it's another one of these creatures. That other, back when they found the big giant bones at the mine, that they found those two eggs, one that was supposedly dormant, the other one that had hatched and broken open. Apparently the other one wasn't so dormant as they thought it was. So it hatches at this nuclear waste facility, or I guess it's a nuclear waste facility. It's a facility where they put a whole bunch of other nuclear waste. You got soldiers going through this place, and they're looking in these chambers, and they finally find the one that it's in, but when they open up the door to where the egg used to be, I say used to be because now the whole room is just gone. It's been opened up, the thing busted out of there, leaving just this big hole in the room. That's what happens a lot in this movie. A bunch of people go into rooms, and then the whole wall or a whole part of the room is just gone, leaving this big open place where you can, like when the monsters are in the city, they go to like San Francisco of all places, because that's where the nuclear waste facility was, where this other Muto creature was. There were two of them, the one with the wings and this other one that's bigger than it. That's the female, because it has these hold on, this creature, the son is helping them. And I know I'm rambling here, sorry. Might get better at this later. The son, he tells them about that stuff, and they tell him some things, like what happened at the power plant where his mother died. The egg that had hatched, the creature that was in it, had gone up to where this nuclear power plant was. I guess it was underground, it tunneled or whatever. And it was looking for radiation, which is its food. And its actions are what caused the destruction of the power plant and all of that led to the death of his mother and everything else that happened back there. And so, anyway, this guy, after he tells them about what his dad knew or what his dad had told him, he's now trying to get back to his family. And of course, his family lives in San Francisco, where this other creature has now appeared. It hatched out of the egg at the nuclear waste facility. I keep calling it that. I'm not really sure what they called it. It was just this place where nuclear waste was, where we keep our nuclear waste, apparently. And apparently that's near Nevada, because at one point this creature's going through Las Vegas. I think it's Las Vegas. It looks like Las Vegas. There's people playing slot machine, playing gambling, and on the TV it's showing the monster trampling through the place, and the lights go out, and all of a sudden the monster's big foot, and it's got like this hook thing, comes down through the ceiling and just busts everything up open. People start screaming and everything. And of course the army's trying to stop these two creatures, and of course all along, well, not exactly. Anyway, I know Godzilla does appear in this film. That's the thing about this movie. It does kind of feel like this movie was more about the Muto creatures more than it was about Godzilla, because Godzilla was more like, I mean, the film was named Godzilla, but it was more like he was just tacked on. I mean, not exactly tacked on. It was a good film. I liked it, but he could have been in the film a lot more, I guess. I know I've watched reviews on the internet, and people have been saying that they didn't like that Godzilla wasn't in there much, and that, you know, I mean, the film is called Godzilla. You think it would be more about him than about anything else, but anyway, Godzilla does appear while they're tracking. I think it goes back to the scene where the scientist Serizawa realizes that that thing was sending out energy, was sending out a signal, and that something responded to it. And at first I guess they think it's Godzilla. Of course the scientist refers to him as Gojira, the way they do in Japan. Later on he's referring to him as Godzilla too, but anyway, sorry. The Godzilla does show up. There's these scenes where his spikes are going through the water as he's swimming under the water, and these battleships are like following him and stuff. Especially after, you know, there's one point where this Muto creature, the one that can fly, Godzilla and it start to fight, and they cut away from the fight before it even really begins. I mean, Godzilla like grabs this creature twice with its mouth, sort of biting at him, and it cuts away to other stuff. It doesn't really show the first fights much. At first they're trying to track this Muto creature, and this creature gets a submarine, and it ends up in Honolulu. This creature drops a submarine in Honolulu in like the trees. It shows the soldiers going through the jungle or forest in Honolulu, and you know, there's the submarine there, and the creature's like eating the nuclear warheads or the weapons. It's eating the radiation, trying to eat. It's swallowing these like nuclear bombs, I guess, for the radiation. And the soldiers, they find it there, and of course they try to shoot it with. I'm trying to remember. Did they shoot it with planes? They might have. I saw it earlier, as hours earlier, so I might be a little bit mistaken. And Anyway, Godzilla shows up in Honolulu, and I must admit they did really good with the CGI in this movie. I don't think you could really tell when they were using CGI, if they were using it. If they were using it, they did it really well this time with Godzilla. Godzilla really, he looked a little different than he did from the Japanese films. Of course, the Japanese films were a man in a puppet, not a puppet, but a man in a suit, and a Godzilla suit. Whereas this one, in some films how the CGI looks really bad. It looks like something you see in like a video game. Well, in this one, it didn't look like that. It looked really good. Godzilla looked like they used traditional effects. I don't know if they did use CGI or if they didn't, but it looked really good in this one. And Godzilla shows up in Honolulu, and of course, Lieutenant Brody, he's there. He's trying to get back to his family, and of course, something happens. He ends up, this little Japanese kid gets, I think it's a Japanese kid, gets separated from his parents. Brody's on this like commuter train trying to get somewhere so he can get to another flight so he can go to San Francisco where his family is. And this little kid gets separated from his parents, and this guy and Lieutenant Brody promises to get the kid back to his parents and all this stuff. And earlier, Lieutenant Brody, when he was at his home in Japan, Lieutenant Brody promises to get the kid back to his parents and all this stuff. And earlier, Lieutenant Brody, when he was at his home in Japan, he found this little toy soldier that he had when he was a little kid, and he took it with him, and he gave it to this little kid on the train who got separated from his parents. And of course, he's there when the monster attacks. All these planes are like going by this commuter train, and all this stuff is happening. And of course, they're attacking this thing, and there's big explosions. And Godzilla shows up, and he looks a little bit different from the Godzilla in the Japanese films, but he looks pretty good. It doesn't look like CGI if they were using that. I don't know if they were. And anyway, there's this big scene where the monster, it gets in front of their train, of course, and it's being shot at, and the train gets busted open, and these people are falling out of the train. This train's real high up. It's not like on the ground. It's like on this, it's hard to explain, but, and of course, he saves the kid's life, and they both survive. And later on, the kid meets up with his parents when he's trying to report to these people that this kid got separated from his family. He's trying to sign some paperwork or something. Anyway, and that was a thing. There were like several scenes where the monsters, Godzilla, and these Muto, or either both of them or one of the two Muto creatures start to fight, and they cut away to something else. That they could have at least shown the fight before they cut away to something else. But anyway, and of course, we meet these people who are in the army who are trying to stop Godzilla and stop the Muto creatures. The general, I can't remember what his name was. He talks to Serizawa. Serizawa's trying to help them figure out a way to stop these creatures. And Serizawa wants to let Godzilla fight the creatures, and that. Excuse me. And of course, the army just wants to blow them all up. They got this plan to put a nuclear bomb like on a ship or something and lead it and put it out to sea, like, a little ways away from San Francisco, to lead the creatures out there because they'll follow the radiation or something, and then blow them all up once they get out there to it. But of course, there's a scene where they got the missile on a train, And of course, Lieutenant Brody, he's trying to get back to his family. He ends up talking to these people are trying to take the nuclear bomb, by train across country to where they're going to try and blow up the monsters. And these creatures. Sorry, I hope you understand what I'm saying here. And Lieutenant Brody all the time is trying to get home. He calls his wife, and she's a nurse or something, working at a hospital. And her son is at the hospital with her, and they're all worried about him because all this stuff that's happened in Honolulu and with the monsters. Of course, you can't hide the monsters. The whole world's going to know about them, so it's on TV and it's all this stuff. The little boy, he wakes up at one of the scenes where Godzilla and one of the monsters was going to fight. They started to fight, but then it cut away to Lieutenant Brody's son. He's like sleeping, and he wakes up and he sees on TV footage of Godzilla fighting the monster, and it's like a news report. And the mother's telling him to turn it off or whatever. She doesn't see it at first, but then she sees what's happening on the TV. And anyway, Lieutenant Brody is calling her, and they finally get in touch. And he's telling her that he's trying to get, I guess, back to her or back home or whatever. And she tells him that she's got their son with him or something like that. And I'm thinking, or I thought something about, why didn't he tell them, not exactly like that, but why didn't he tell them to leave the city, leave the town, leave San Francisco, get out of there? Why have them wait for him to get to them before, getting them to take it off? I mean, there's monsters there. So, why don't you get them to, like, take off and then you can meet up with them later or something? Not exactly like that, but, anyway, they're, like, evacuating the hospital and stuff, and she puts her son on a bus, on this, like a school bus. It looks like a school bus, and they're evacuating these people out of there, but she stays at the hospital for a while to take care of people. And and I know I'm taking a long time doing this, sorry. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of really good action sequences. After that, the son is like on a bus, and they're driving all these kids and stuff across this bridge, and of course Godzilla shows up, and he's come. It was kind of fun. It's kind of well, I don't know if it's funny, but there was a scene where these two soldiers who are like on a boat that are near this bridge. They're like seeing these spikes from Godzilla coming through the water towards them, and like, brace or something like that. And didn't make a face like that, but and anyway, the spikes stop when they're coming towards them, and you think, I guess it kind of think, or it kind of look, I guess you're kind of led to think, or supposed to think, that that's like the spikes on Godzilla's back, but it turns out those are the ones on his tail, because his tail comes up out of the water, and it turns out his body is behind the ship, and it comes up on the other side. And all these ships start trying to fire at him, and they end up almost killing people on the bridge who are trying to get away. And Lieutenant Brody's son, the bus he's on, the driver there panics, and he tries to get out of there, and he's going dodging all these cars and things. And there's one of those missiles explodes, and it hits this high tension cable, or what it's called, that was holding the bridge up, and it comes down, it blocks their path, so they have to stop for a little bit, but it gets out of the way, and they take off, and they're shooting at Godzilla and all this stuff, and it looks pretty good. Godzilla is rising up, and the kids see him, and there's this one point earlier where the kids are like being all noisy and stuff on the bus, and then you hear Godzilla's like roar or something, and the kids are all quiet, and they looking around, like they look over in the direction where the sound came from. That was kind of, I guess you could say, funny or cute or something. And anyway, of course, the military doesn't stop Godzilla. And Godzilla gets into San Francisco, and it turns out there are two of those Muto creatures. One's a male, he's got wings and he flies around, and the other one's really, really big, bigger than he is, and she's the female. And you do kind of find that out. There was a scene where Lieutenant Brody is trying to get back to his family, and he's helping out these people who are trying to take the bomb on the train across to where they're gonna blow it up. And they stop because the monster is attacking these people near where they are. And this guy's trying to call them on the radio, and you hear the sound of them screaming and yelling and all this stuff. And Lieutenant Brody and these other guys, they go across the bridge to see if it's still intact, still standing. And that's when the female shows up, and you see this sort of like glowing egg sack up under her, because she sort of like walks over them at one point. Lieutenant Brody and this other fellow are lying on the ground, trying not to be noticed by this creature. This creature walks all the way around them, underneath the bridge and on the sides. And you get to see these little objects with their eggs inside this glowing sack that's underneath this thing. So you know that it's a female. And of course they're trying to mate, trying to make more of these, make more of themselves. And they're in San Francisco, and the female lays these eggs in this place. I can't remember exactly what the name of it was, but it was in San Francisco. And of course Godzilla shows up, and he starts fighting these creatures. That's the thing. It really showed them fighting at the end, near the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. I might be spoiling something here. But, and that's another thing. We all know that Godzilla breathes fire, breathes this radioactive breath. He really didn't do that in this film, except for maybe one or two times. One or two places. And that was in the final fight near the end, where he's fighting the male and the female Muto creatures. And of course Lieutenant Brody, who's there helping them, trying to deliver this bomb to this place. One of the bombs gets eaten by, they have more than one bomb they're trying to deliver, and one of them gets eaten. And you do kind of find that out. There was a scene where Lieutenant Brody is trying to get back to his family, and he's helping out these people who are trying to take the bomb on the train across to where they're gonna blow it up. And they stop because the monster is attacking these people near where they are. And this guy's trying to call them on the radio, and you hear the sound of them screaming and yelling and all this stuff. And Lieutenant Brody and these other guys, they go across the bridge to see if it's still intact, still standing. And that's when the female shows up, and you see this sort of like glowing egg sack up under her, because she sort of like walks over them at one point. Lieutenant Brody and this other fellow are lying on the ground, trying not to be noticed by this creature. This creature walks all the way around them, underneath the bridge and on the sides. And you get to see these little objects with their eggs inside this glowing sack that's underneath this thing. So you know that it's a female. And of course they're trying to mate, trying to make more of these, make more of themselves. And they're in San Francisco, and the female lays these eggs in this place. I can't remember exactly what the name of it was, but it was in San Francisco. And of course Godzilla shows up, and he starts fighting these creatures. That's the thing. It really showed them fighting at the end, near the end of the movie. Spoiler alert. I might be spoiling something here. But, and that's another thing. We all know that Godzilla breathes fire, breathes this radioactive breath. He really didn't do that in this film, except for maybe one or two times. One or two places. And that was in the final fight near the end, where he's fighting the male and the female Muto creatures. And of course Lieutenant Brody, who's there helping them, trying to deliver this bomb to this place. One of the bombs gets eaten by, they have more than one bomb they're trying to deliver, and one of them gets eaten by the Muto creature, one of them. And the other bomb, they finally get there. They're gonna put it on this boat and get it out into the water a little ways away and try to blow it up a little bit away from the city, so you know it won't hurt people or kill so many people. and finally, at one point, Godzilla finally uses his fire breath. I was wondering, not exactly, well, it seemed like, I mean, I guess I can't remember the exact words, but I was thinking to myself, I was kind of, well, it seemed like, I guess I was worried or something that he might not use it at all in this movie. I mean, you know, in the other movie, the 1998 film, kind of just blew on things and they exploded. It didn't really come out of his mouth, but this time it did. In this film, the radioactive breath actually did come out of his mouth. He uses it on the male once, and then later on, he gets the female and he grabs her mouth. And he opens up her mouth like King Kong did to those dinosaurs in King Kong, and the Godzilla breathes his fire breath down the female's throat and basically takes her head off doing that, and then he just drops her head. And after he killed the male, which was earlier, and at one point it showed the scene where Brody and Godzilla were close to each other, and Godzilla looked kind of like he's all beaten up, like he's tired and everything, and Brody was all, you know, I guess tired from trying to get back to his family and trying to deliver this bomb, do all this stuff. And you know, and then Godzilla's face is sort of clouded in with all the smoke and you can't see him. And anyway, because these creatures can make these electromagnetic pulses that fry electronics, they have to use this old sort of timer thing to arm the bomb. And at one point they're trying they haven't got the bomb to the boat yet. And they want to defuse it, I guess, but they can't, so they decide to just take it to the boat before it runs out of time. And at one point it does kind of look like Lieutenant Brody might end up dying himself, because he does get on the boat with the bomb, and he gets the boat moving, getting it traveling away from the dock, and the female monster, before she gets killed, comes after him because, of course, the radiation, I guess it wants to eat the bomb for the radiation. And he sort of points a gun at the female, which is huge. And it's like, you know, but Godzilla grabs her first. That's the thing. Godzilla really does bite and grab a bunch of times, instead of using his radioactive breath earlier, including right there. I mean, it's like, you know, and at one point, Lieutenant Brody's just lying there. I guess he's like giving up. I guess he's like lying there about to die, and this white light comes, and I guess at first you kind of think like, you kind of like think the bomb might have exploded, but it turns out those are helicopter lights, and he gets rescued. These people take him off the boat by helicopter, and the nuclear bomb blows up. It doesn't blow up any of the creatures, which is weird. That's what the whole point of the bomb was. They do all this stuff to get the bomb out there, and then in the end, it's Godzilla who kills the two monsters. The monsters don't even get blown up by the bomb. Godzilla doesn't even get blown up by the bomb. There's this one point where Brody's lying on the boat where the bomb is, and it looks like he might die. He's lying there on his side, and he sees Godzilla, and Godzilla sort of falls over like he's dead or dying or something. And it shows Godzilla, he's like lying there, and excuse me. But of course, he wakes up. He's lying there. All these people are like searching for trapped people in the debris of the city. Buildings get destroyed in this movie. One building falls over on Godzilla at one point when he's fighting in this movie. And Godzilla wakes back up. He gets up and he walks, you know, back to the sea, and he, you know, goes back into the water. And it was showing a TV screen, showing a news report of Godzilla and all this stuff, calling him the savior of the city. I don't think they should have done that. Jesus Christ is our Savior. He's my Savior. He's our Savior. And they probably shouldn't have done that with Godzilla, but anyway, Lieutenant Brody and his wife, they find each other. His son, they're all okay. Brody survives, and well, that's basically the movie. I mean, I guess, who knows? I don't know if there's going to be a sequel. If there is, that's okay. I know I like Godzilla movies. I've seen a number of them. I've got the original Gojira on DVD. I've seen Godzilla vs. Megalon, but it's been years since I've seen that one. That was one of my favorite ones, I think, too. And I've seen a bunch of others. I got a number of Godzilla films, and I like this one. Excuse me. I like this one. The effects were good. It didn't look like that bad fake CGI that you see in a lot of movies nowadays. And it was Godzilla this time. In the old 1998 film, a lot of people were like, I mean, it's like they made a monster movie and they just put Godzilla's name on it. It could have been any monster. They could have renamed it something else, and it probably would have done better if they had just named it something else, because it really wasn't the Godzilla creature, because he didn't do a lot of things Godzilla did, and the military killed Godzilla in the 1998 Godzilla movie, which people didn't like. I like that movie, but I can understand why other people, you know, didn't like it. I can understand it. A lot of people who like the Godzilla movies probably didn't think they did it well, or, you know, having the military killed him. A lot of people I don't think like that, because in the Japanese movies, the military never killed Godzilla. They shoot him with bombs from planes and ships and tanks, and shoot him with everything they can think of. Even some sort of sci-fi weapons they make in certain movies, and they couldn't stop Godzilla. Godzilla usually might end up getting killed by a monster, though he usually doesn't. I mean, in the original one, they destroyed Godzilla with this oxygen destroyer, and they did that once, but usually the military can't stop Godzilla. And the oxygen destroyer was made by scientists rather than the military. So anyway, I like this movie, and you know what? Maybe y'all will like it too. I don't know. But this is me. See ya.